that conversation?
Well, I thought the subject was fun, and it took me a while to figure out when we were going to talk about fun in it. um, but there was some great things in there. Like I had some really good takeaways from it. Um, and the part that really stood out to me was towards the very end, you paired like fun or amusement with havingness. And havingness is something that like heard it as I've practiced, but like I haven't looked back around on it in a long time. And like, let's get back to that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And how I think I said how it really underlies almost everything we do. Because if we can't have it, then we can't have it.
Yeah. Well,
So that,
noticing for myself and just my life experience currently, if I'm tending to my like, how do I want to say this? My life could be really painful and a drag and not fun right now. And but if I tend to my havingness, I can get there. And like I suppose I'm just reiterating what you said is it's like the underlying thing for all. If I can't
yeah,
have anything other than sorrow and suffering, then what am I allowing myself to have?
right, right. So
And
it's
no,
related to the set point work we do. Like this is how it is, this is how it always is, this is how it was as a kid. And like to be able to have, whatever it is, set point is like be able to be at a different weight, to be able to have a different bank account balance, to be able to have relationships that work differently, like whatever it is. And then inside us, like you're talking, being able to just have fun, be able to access joy or peace or love or whatever, our capacity for that varies. And we do active work about it. And I wonder if that, yeah, it's like it helps. That's one of the ways that we support our havingness. Yeah.
I know with there's inner child work. People talk about it all the time and having fun. And I can't reference having fun in my childhood. That may sound drastic, but like it was
Mhm.
not there. It's really difficult for me to find a set point for fun. Like when I think about having fun, I'm like, I just want to be alone. And like that for a long time, because that's
Mhm.
peace, right? Like just getting
Right.
peace. But like having fun seems like such a jump. Like, how do people do that? These conversation I've honestly had with myself of like, what is fun for me? What would that look like? What is
Mhm.
that? Because things that I've tried to do that are fun, I get in my head about what is everybody doing? What is fun supposed to look like? How am I supposed to do this?
Mhm.
So the allowing and the having of fun, I think, is something that I
Yeah,
could be working with. Because I love a good
totally.
joke. That's kind of where I found it is like if I can find a place where I laugh. I love
Mhm.
stand-up comedy and
Yes,
just kind of start building on that.
totally. Yes. Yes. And that playfulness you can start to bring into your life. But I see your pictures, right? It's just like it was, you were happy to just not have it be terrible, right? It's just like, let's hide, let's
Mhm.
be alone. Yeah.
Not having to perform or try to guess what other people it has a lot to do with trying to show up how other people want me to and trying to guess what that's going to be and am I doing this right. I remember thinking that a lot as a kid, am I going to do this right? And so that takes a lot of fun out of everything.
It does. Does. Oh, those ideal pictures and the don't look at me unless everything's just right. So don't look at me and like all that.
Well,
There's a lot
and then
to
if
it.
it's not, the bottom falls out. Like if I'm not doing it right, then
Hmm.
trouble, and that
Yes.
generally isn't fun. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny because I think of you do a lot of music, but
Mhm.
that's not paired with fun for you.
Mm-mm. It too. So as a child growing up, music was always on. So there is that. Like I do music in my it was that was something that was always present. Um, and I really enjoyed live shows for a long time, but that was a lot of active work. Like that's when I first
Mhm.
started this practice, and music was a place where I could find some joy and some peace. Like it keeps me in a place. And it took me a while, and eventually I got comfortable going with to shows and learned how to have a good time. And then I
Mm.
learned how to do it without alcohol. Two different
Uh-huh.
steps,
Whole nother step.
mhm. But yeah, it wasn't easy at first. And it was, I happened to have like acquired two friends where I worked who went to shows all the time. So I got some buddies to go with all the time who had done it and led the
Mhm.
way. So,
Yeah. That reminds me, the whole addiction and just what's the word? Being altered is very tied for a lot of people around enjoyment or play or like adult recreation.
I
Um,
agree.
so we were just saying, I was saying it with Michael. I was giving him this example about for something other reason. I'm just like, but I was using alcohol. I'm just like, yeah, beer and canoeing, beer and horseshoes, beer
Mm-hmm.
and
Beer and
beach,
football,
beer
beer and
and
pizza.
camping, beer. It's just like there's a theme here, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like that's what play is, or that's what fun is, or that's what R&R is. It's like it has to be paired with the alteration, and that's just how it is in our society. But it doesn't have to be.
Well, two things on that. One, when I quit drinking for a while or wasn't participating in it, it was difficult to find people to do things with that didn't involve alcohol. And at the time, I wasn't strong enough or sturdy enough and not drinking that I could do those things with
Hmm.
them, with like, going, you know, going dancing. Like I would meet if there was alcohol, I would participate or, I mean, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but I've also looked at the energy, I think mostly through clients and looking at like family lineage, or also looking at my own example of programming growing up was like you work really hard and then on the weekend or after work you relax, or like work week you relax by drinking in the evening, and on the weekend you really drink to have a party, right?
Right.
But there's been a few times I've read the energy of like prohibition and the societal programming of like we took it away and now we're giving it back, and you think it empowers you, you think that this is you making a choice about
Hmm.
having fun at the end of the day or relaxing, but it's actually like we give this to like stay complacent, so you keep working hard and you keep putting in effort and
Right.
don't progress further.
Don't change. Don't
Mm-hmm.
grow sometimes. And I do want to say, I don't, my intention, and I'm probably not yours, is, to like be getting down on
Alcohol,
whatever,
yeah,
drugs,
never.
alcohol, like all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. It's fine. It's like people use it for reasons, and some of those reasons are addictive to just disengage from what's going on for reals in the body. And but also just, as a like a social lubricant, as a, people do that and it's fine. Um, from my perspective, like whatever gets you through the night, whatever gets you through the day, right? But the idea from my perspective and the reason for these conversations, the reason for everything we do, is can we move to the next level in which things are we get what we want more with less harm. Go ahead.
Well, I agree entirely. I'm not opposed to anyone drinking, and now I'll drink every now and then. For me, if I do, my body hurts the next day, and I notice the toll it takes. So, like it doesn't. My life currently, it takes more than it adds. but I understand and I have seen that it's not necessarily that, and sometimes like, and my thought is like people who may use it as a coping mechanism for different things, trauma, like it may be adding in that sense, right? Like you said, getting you through the night. Like if you can't get through the night without it and it helps and it soothes
Yeah.
it, I'm not opposed to it. And like, let's
Right.
work with that and forward. Yeah.
Right.
So it's not
And
as
forward.
much effort. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a really everyday example of that. A friend of mine, because one of them grew up like Mennonite or whatever. So a friend of mine had their wedding reception with no alcohol. And by the way, the venue that they were at, it was a beach that place, like a, belonged to the town. Um, it got them to be able to be there, and also it saved them a lot of money because alcohol is expensive. But no one danced except for
I
me
was
and my
thinking that
partner. Me and my
as soon
partner
as you
danced
said
like
no
the whole
alcohol, I was
time
like,
because the music was awesome. A friend of ours was doing the DJing. It was awesome.
Mhm.
So we danced like the whole time, but we're like the only ones basically the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's so people can access that movement and play and dancing and fun, but they weren't able to do it without a couple drinks. Um, and how sad, really.
Yeah. Well, just on like a biological level, understanding what alcohol does, it dumps all your dopamine at one time, right? So it's just like all the good stuff just pops out all at once.
Oh,
That's why the comeback is so hard because you're depleted. But
oh,
also you can increase that by dancing, by moving your body. So
that's
like how cool. Like even on a biological level, like it does the same thing, much slower rate, right? And less
right,
recovery. But
right.
yeah.
And I do want to say, like, I'd worked on this for long decades before I did the tools that we use. And, I start like for real. I started out with like, I want to dance more. I want to learn, so the first thing I did was I went into the basement in the dark where no one could see me and put on music
Not
and
even
started to
you.
move. I mean, that's where I started. I'm not saying it was easy,
Yeah.
because I'm a hider. Like I survived by hiding, freezing and fawning. I
Mhm.
didn't survive by being the life of the party. So it was a long road to get there, but I got there. So
Do you recall like what the conversation was with yourself or wanting to dance more? Like, had you just danced a little bit and was like, oh, I want more of that? Or like people look like they're having fun doing that and I want to do that? Or,
I wanted to move and enjoy my body more. I wanted to play more. I When I was really little, used to dance around the living room, we did like the walk and the bump. Like that's the time period I was in. Um, I knew it was important. But I couldn't show up. I couldn't be seen. I couldn't even see myself because I hated my body so much and I was uncomfortable being, in my body. And it was, so there was the trauma of safety, but also and hiding, and wallflowering. But there was also the body hate that just like, oh my gosh, my body isn't ideal. I can't be seen and I can't be seen to move. And I can't
yeah.
move right. Even though I have natural rhythm. Like some people don't. I have natural rhythm. Like it's just there. So fortunately. So yeah.
Well, I think that piece about by yourself in the dark is so like poignant to like not even you couldn't even see you to start with, right? Like I can't. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, that's powerful.
And honestly, I will just say to share it, what helped me an enormous amount was, I mean, really day to night, was doing contra dancing. And it's a kind of folk dancing. It's like square dancing, but way more fun. And it's structured. And the whole idea is that it's a structured, you just like walk from here to there and you turn here, like it's just this pattern. That's all it is. It's a pattern that you do over and over. And the idea is like, I got myself to do that and just walk here to there and, this and that. And then the whole idea is that you dance in the dance. But it's so beginner friendly because I can just do the pattern. And, if I just show up at the right place and put my correct hand out or turn around this person, it's good enough. And it doesn't have to be great. And then eventually I got comfortable with the patterning and then started to dance in the dance. And then I was able to start to dance outside that structure. And another thing is in that structure, there's also in the middle, there's a break where there's partner dancing. There's usually a waltz or whatever. And I learned, that I love the 3-time dances. I love waltzing and polka and that kind of stuff. I love it. So that broke me out into learning partner dancing, which is also more comfortable because it's structured. And so like, just in case anybody wants to know, like the physical pathways that helped me. And also I spent the whole time pretending no one was seeing me. And I still do that. Like I can't,
right? Like no one's watching. Isn't that like a
right? Whether they're watching or not, like I just pretend they're not there. And that helps a lot.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever danced sober. So
still
this is inspiring, right? Like, yeah, that means, well, every once in a while in the house when I'm doing stuff, like I bust a move, but like it doesn't last very long because there's not a foundation. What I'm hearing you say too is there's a foundation, and my brain instantly is like, foundational, that's not going to be fun. I don't want to do that. But I see how that plays out, right? Like having a foundation and then you can move within the fun, and then there's freedom in it because you have a foundation and some tools and understanding.
Yes. And I'll do another coaching about the physical part because I'm very passionate about dancing. Which is that there are there's Fred Astaire, there's a few places you can go to learn to dance that are franchises, and you show up to the studio, and first of all, they're not cheap. And second of all, they don't teach the fundamentals. They do, but they teach you have to do this. You can't do that. It's all like learn this pattern. It's like as if you're going off to do some kind of dance recital thing.
We know how much this is your favorite kind of teaching.
I actually went to, when I was always looking for work. What's it called? I went for a trial to work in one of those places. And just the interview process and just the dancing and what they wanted me to do, I got the pictures even more. I'm like, I want nothing to do with this. Like, I don't want to do this. I'm a dancer and I don't want to do this. Like, this is so perfect picture-y. It's so structured, whereas through the through the people meeting, through Contra, and also becoming more popular, at least on the coasts, is like barefoot boogies, or like whatever they're called, sacred whatever's dances. Some of the ways into there, Dance New England, and there's one now on the East Coast, the West Coast. There's all these pathways to get like organic dancing, and like so for Michael and I, we've taught waltzing, and you just start with like moving your body to the 1, 2, 3. That's all. Like that's the most important thing. Like you don't have to worry about a box. There's no boxes to have to be in. Move to 1, 2, 3, you're doing it. And so we
Yeah.
have everybody move to 1, 2, 3, and then we start to add, okay, this is how you turn. This is how you hold a partner. This is right. It's just so playful and easy. It's so
Well, and
easy.
learning something right off the bat that's easy, right? And having
Right,
that validation of like that one, oh, I got that. Okay. It's more
right,
encouraging than trying to learn something that you keep bumping your head
right.
against. And yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Um, so for me, like some people like that game and that's fine, but I like the game where they show up with me for one song and they are doing it,
I'm not like
right? And the doing it is by doing it, which is a lot like our practice, I think,
a lot of this too. Yeah. It
right?
sounds like that,
It's like
right?
you don't have
Like
to
you get the
believe a certain
foundation.
thing, you don't have to get in a certain structure, you don't have to well, jump through hoops, you don't have to
Hmm.
sign a document about doctrine or whatever or
Yeah.
behavior, right?
Hmm.
Just like come and play. That's it. And you will get something and then you'll
And
have
then
it.
it's yours forevermore.
It's yours
Yeah.
forever. Didn't mean to do a little commercial, but it's the same.
True. Well, that's what I was thinking about dancing. Like what you were saying is like, what a gift. Like one song, right? And then here you go for the rest of your life. You have something, right? Like to work with. Same thing with our practice. You show up one time
One time.
and you'll
And
show
you get the basics and then you do with what you want. And some people get passionate and then want to learn curly cues.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all play. It's all yeah. So, all right, we could talk forever. Um, okay, here we are. We're talking about amusement and neutrality.
Oh, is that what we're doing? So we're playing.
Right. Anything you want to say before I look at my little notes here? No.
Go ahead.
So we're hilarious. We know how to play. Um, okay, so I had talked about at the end of that other conversation. I want to start here about the different how I read. Everybody's different, but how I tend to read certain pink flavors. So you can listen to that other one to get the details, but I had talked about that and also how I love these pink flavors, how they melt away the dark and heavy. I think I talked about that too. The stuck, the resistance, the hopelessness, despair, the death, the anti-God. Um, no big deal, right? But they help thin and move that out energetically. And that's not something I learned in school. That's just as a healer, I just works and I just keeps working. Um, so now I'm going to go on to what I didn't talk about, but you have anything to say before I do that? Okay. Um, so I'm going to talk about amusement first and for just a little bit because I'm going to talk a lot about having this. So yeah, I mean, we talked about it some. Amusement is a vibe. Everything we do is letting in a blessing or frequency or vibration and practice. Um, Learning to integrate a new way of being or that's vibe, that is that blessing in our soul body world. So everything's both. And amusement is a vibration. It's a playfulness, lightness, and it's for most people pretty comfortable. So it's pretty high vibration that's comfortable for most people, and it really helps change. It helps with healing. It helps with transformation because we take it lightly. Just think about if you're playing and laughing with friends or whatever, and um, somebody says something a little weird to us, we're just just roll along. But if I'm taking it all serious and I'm all kinds of protected and fighting, and somebody says that same thing, well, um, it hits and it sticks and I could get stuck there forever. Because I take it all very seriously. Um, so I mean, we're not going to run it, and running it is like it is it. Like we can only talk about so much. but actually experiencing it. So maybe people have experienced playfulness, amusement, taking things lightly, and understand that that might be a great place to live. So I find it's magic and extraordinary, and it can help completely shift a situation while it's happening or while I'm thinking about it in the past or the future. It's these frequencies, they're a spiritual blessing into our soul. They're an internal experience, but then they roll out into our world, and we can cause us to be more like when I was first a teacher, I used to have to run high amusement because it was so hard for me because it was speaking, being in front of people, being seen, speaking was all so not what I did. So I'd have to run really high amusement. So I'd still laugh all the time when I do whatever I do, but laugh and play. I mean, it's the only way to do it. But it was really high because I had to overcome myself and my natural fear and hiding. So some people didn't like it. They're just like, this is supposed to be meditation. This is supposed to be serious stuff. This is supposed to be important. Like, what the hell are you doing? A lot of people had trouble with that. And I'm just like, the whole point here is to have fun, isn't it?
To get out of all of those. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, it helps us be more malleable. It helps us be less serious. Let's issues and stuff where we've been stuck be less trenchant. Helps us be able to move around places we felt have experienced victim cycles, victim experience. It totally opens the gates of healing. So I'll just finish and then I'll see what you have to say.
Yeah.
It's one of the two pillars of the practice. I mean, it's that important. And let me just back up and say this practice is for mystics. This practice is for people who experience spiritual reality directly and are willing to respond to it, to share it like a reader, to help ourselves and others transform with it, like healers and transformation agents, to make a difference in the world from what we experience spiritually into the world. Jesus said, when you hear what you hear in the dark, say in the light. How do we do that? Like we have to have some inner structure and capacity to do that because spiritual reality, spirit is intense and lights up our own soul, and also the many layers of what one might call the shared soul reality, or the what's Jungian thing called the
Collective consciousness.
Yeah, the collective consciousness has soul levels of interactive things going on, and it's freaking intense and can be scary as hell and can be stimulating and disturbing in our everyday consciousness. Very. That's the kind of shit that goes on. Like there are energies and consciousnesses that aren't available in everyday consciousness for us. And I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, yeah, I'm supposed to be being attractive, but like this is real. And so that's just an example. And the point is that we need a foundation that is powerful enough, that's strong enough to hold us to be able to stand in the face of whatever is happening. The crazy in our world, the crazy in our head, crazy in our emotions, crazy in other people's heads and emotions, the intensity of spiritual reality. We need a place that's strong enough for that. And most people don't have that. So stuff goes down and people, have clay feet. There's not a capacity. So anyway, the point is that there's two main foundations for this work. And one of them is so funny. Like they're moving rocks like right outside. Like I thought I'd be like, no one would be here, but I'm right outside the internet. Very funny. Um, and one is neutrality, which is spiritual perspective instead of body perspective or everyday perspective or intellectual perspective. It's spiritual perspective, neutral, and also what when we know from people talk about like Zen and stuff, equanimity, not pulled and pushed so much, not caught in judgment, just intellectual. So that's one of the, because like, can I be with the person who shows up and is having or has had terrible behavior or terrible behavior done to them or matches my pictures about my own trauma or like whatever? Can I just stay with them and the waves come, the waves go? So neutrality and see it from our spiritual perspective instead of falling into some kind of emotional or should or socially acceptable or whatever. Can I just stay with the person in the moment? That's neutrality. And then amusement. And it just seems like, what? That's crazy. Play, amusement, taking a land. Yes, because like if I take it seriously, I am hooked. Right.
Yeah.
And that's some of what we see with people. It's just like such a thing lately. So many people are stimulated. What's that word? The PTSD gets triggered and triggered, right? Triggered. And it's just like, it's also serious and it's also unhandleable. And it's also like, I'll go off on this a little bit. Like, there's nothing to be done except maybe I can go to the counselor and be half better. It's very serious and despairing. It's very heavy, right? And that's the pink. The pinks help move the heavy. So amusement helps us roll with it and be just like, it's not, it's kind of, you know, who uses this a lot, and culturally known is like firefighters, police officers. Like there's some good parts. Like sometimes the trauma is not processed for them and it just lets, you know, take drugs or do alcohol and act out. But there's a good part, which is like, let's just make jokes and play in the face of death and destruction and horror, right? And that's what we do. We're just like, we're not going to take this seriously. So there's a giant thing with bias. Like whatever. It's just big. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? You know, right? Like laugh, joke, and take the power out of it. We call these friends that are consciousness but not embodied in this world, in this reality, beings. We take all the power out of it. We're not going to call them demons. We're not going to call
Yeah.
them, right? Like it's like every now and then I'll say, God, you know, like that's a demon, you know, but it's just like if we call it beings, my friend used to call them fleas,
Mm.
right?
The energy.
Take all the power out of it, play
Mhm.
and enjoy and roll and just have authority. That's the point. And we can't do it if we're hooked.
Mm.
So anyway, that's way more than I intended to say, but what are you noticing?
I look at my notes here because it was um I was noticing in the very beginning when you were talking about defensive, the word I wrote down is defensiveness. Like if there's not amusement, I feel like I'm defending myself and how I had a flashback of being, or like a memory, whatever, a picture of being a kid and how easily my feelings would get hurt. And of course, I
Yeah,
would get more shame for that.
yeah.
But it was because I was being defensive and there was no amusement about it and there was no encouragement of amusement. So it just stayed in that lane. So like I stayed on defense and that leads to all kinds of things too. Uh Even at a young age, that internalizing it, I started developing body coping mechanisms like chewing my lip, like a
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing to process it. And
Yeah.
so then thinking about I did all of my foundation classes. I mean, I did most of my classes with you as my teacher and the foundation classes. And when you would say, let's play together, the way I could tell my vibration was, or like I was in resistance to that. And how fucking weird is it? Excuse me. How strange is it to be in resistance to play? Like, it really called me to have to pay attention to, like, why are you feeling in resistance to play? Like, I
Yes.
didn't show up with any ideas or expectations to this school. Like,
Right.
I don't know what guided me there. I mean, yeah, different story for a different day, but I didn't have any expectations. But feeling myself feeling in resistance to the play, I was like, what is this? Which really had me at that time question when I had fun, like going back into my childhood and like, where
Right.
is a place? First time I had ever considered, like, what was something that I had experienced that was fun, and building on
Mm,
that. And then how it opened all the healing. It
yes.
opens healing, and boy, did I go through a lot of healing, and that really helped crack the door open for that. So that's my personal experience. But I also had some things about a little like my little psychology information about this topic too that I hadn't put together before hearing you speak now is our brains are meant to keep us safe. Like, our brain and our body aren't meant to be in joy and amusement biologically. Like, the way they're set up isn't for that. It's just for survival. And if you're having a good time, you're
Yes.
not worried about getting your next meal. Or so
Mm,
like the brain wants to move you into that rather than joy, amusement, happiness. So what I was hearing what you're saying is like, it's a real flex of spiritual muscle too. Like, I'm not allowing the body to be in the forefront when I'm in amusement. I'm in a vibration that I'm flexing my spiritual muscles. I'm being with
mm.
spirit rather than letting the body run the show, and letting the body have the experience that I'm intentionally, or the vibration of the experience that intentionally setting from spirit.
Mhm. Could I, before you go to the next thing,
Yeah.
could I speak to that? Because I
Yeah.
think that's a cultural negative turn that we've taken. Honestly, I think, my partner's had a SIG file at the bottom of the email forever, decades now. All mammals learn by playing, right? And can we be in constant? And I believe that our four people, four humans, were always learning. Yeah, and all animals, we just had two baby bears in our RV site the other day. It was adorable. They did rip our freaking screen for our tent, but just because they're
Hopefully they're
so
cute.
curious and rascally, right? But they were so little and so cute and so playful. Everything they do is play. Everything they do is play. And so they're learning, learning, learning. But things get harder when we're older. We do need to have more responsibilities. And I do think that if we can keep playing it, we can keep learning more. By the way, that's it's a useful skill to keep learning new things. What's that called? Adaptability. It's really important for adaptability, which is the chief way of how evolution works. Like, the most adaptable ones survive. And I think that's applicable not just physically, but socially, emotionally. So this practice gets us, keeps bringing us back to being like children,
Mm-hmm.
not bossy pants, scared, um, mm, not having a good time adults,
Yeah, locked in.
locked in.
The like fixed mindset versus growth mindset kind of thing.
Yes,
Fixer.
yes.
Yeah.
But to be in that growth mindset, it's intense, right? We just have to constantly change our mind, turn around, be be letting go of I was wrong all but I was wrong, or I was there and now I'm here. It really takes a lot of malleability and humility. And amusement really helps with that.
Well, and not even like being wrong, understanding that being wrong isn't, it doesn't have to be painful and shameful. You can be amused about being wrong. Like, I don't know if you've ever like thought you knew the words to a song before, and like then you find out that you've been singing it wrong for years, right?
Oh,
Just call me.
happens.
I used to think, "Don't call me Angel in the morning." Just call me Angel in the morning. As a kid, I sang it as "Don't call me Angel in the morning," and like like I don't want to get up. I'm grumpy, and like that's what I was thought I meant as a kid. And then when I learned that wasn't what it was funny. Like it's okay to be wrong, and like yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure there's much more intense situations, but being open
right,
to being wrong and curious, right? I think being
right.
curious, remaining curious, and
Hmm.
malleable and open.
Right, right. And before you go on, I'll say,
Mhm.
there's a big complaint and concern about, I'll say about pe anyone who's in service, um,
Mhm.
about resilience and burnout, right? And
Mhm.
this is right there. If we can be neutral and amused, if we can be playing all the time, if we can be adaptable, we can be resilient, and then we can not burn out. Like the burnout isn't usually what's happening, it's all our stories and our resistance to what's happening and our judgment of what's happening and our shoulds about how we should be and they should be. I think there's just the piles of things that amusement addresses that keeps us
Mhm.
just being able to dance it and let go that it's not perfect because it's never perfect because that's not the game we're in.
Well, to speak to that, the like service and PTSD is what you were talking about, and the term triggered, and how you'll always have triggers, and you need to, the way to work through it is to have tools to use when it happens because it's just going to happen. And
Yeah,
what I've noticed is just the word triggered triggers people. And I think from
hmm,
this practice, I learned to say lights you up, like it lights this up,
right,
rather than
right,
saying, because triggered, it seems to just like pile on another thing.
right.
I've noticed reading the energy when someone's talking about their triggers is it's like using the word pulls all the triggers for the triggers. Like then we're even
Yes,
bigger down a hole. So
yes. And it's also serious and
very
unstoppable.
serious. Yeah. And not in, you don't have like a spiritual authority over it for healing and moving through.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. And PTSD, I mean, from my experience, I have a few from trauma and also a big years long thing I went through of living with it. And it can go away. I think it's really important to say that. People, yes, we have to manage it until it goes away if we're willing to heal and really get up and deal with it.
In my own experience and things people I've worked with, I agree. Like entirely, I've had things triggered that cause, you know, all kinds of different body responses and stuff like that. But
Right?
having these tools to work through that when it's happening.
It's huge. It's huge. Like I functioned for years very well with like living in two realities a lot in the like seeing the
Mm-hmm.
pictures, being there, having the
Yeah,
emotions, and all then staying with what was really happening and teaching, like teaching this stuff
as it's happening, right?
as it's happening, going through my life and like I could totally do it. It just became normal. Because it was years. And it came and went in intensity, but um no one even knew. It's
I think
very handleable with tools, and then it can resolve.
it reminds me of something we were talking about yesterday. I think the only way to is through, and like if we're just managing the moment rather than moving through. And these tools really, amusement helps move through when you've been triggered, right? Or lit up, or
Right.
you
Oh
are,
yeah.
so you can be
Right.
present with it and move through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Awesome. What else you got?
I think the only other thing that came up for me was when you're talking about the collective consciousness, I was just thinking about how when you are in a room with people that are laughing, how much easier laughs come, right? And
Yes,
I think it goes both directions, right? Like when I was
totally.
thinking about mom mentality, but when you are in watching comedy, and I love stand up. So like once it starts, it's like a momentum that happens, right? And you
Yes.
start like riding a bigger wave. And even like before I found these teachings, I was just reading books about the Tao a lot.
Mm.
And I came across one that uh it was I'm trying to think of what was being explained, but the point was the chapter was titled poo on your shoe, and can you be in amusement with poo on your shoe? And that's when you know you've moved into like full enlightenment. Like in those, it's like the grossest thing, and you're at like getting ready to go into a big meeting. Like, can you be amused in that moment, right? And that really stuck with me. So
It's awesome. And when you say poo, I think of Winnie the Pooh, which has been
mm.
one of my names,
Mm-hmm.
secondary one of my names. And like I so relate to his bumbly, it's just like, can you just laugh when your butt is stuck in the door? It's just like,
Yeah,
right? Like what else?
when the
You can
shit's
be
really
miserable
hitting the
or you can
fan.
laugh and eat honey. Either way, because life is
Well,
gonna be so one way, sooner or later, unless you die quickly and easily in your youth, like life just is like so much humility practice.
so confronting. Life is confronting. And
Yes.
yesterday I was having one of those days where like all the things are happening at one time, very much like a pinnacle moment of a crescendo, if you will, of things happening, coming together
Yes.
that weren't, I was going to say necessarily, but they weren't good things at all. But it got so ridiculous that all I could do was be amused. And there is a time where that wouldn't have been the case. I would have fallen apart and just like not been able to do it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure I would have. Okay, resiliency is one of my strengths, I think. So I would have figured something out, but I may have not made choices that served my highest good or what I'm trying to achieve either. Right.
Right.
So
There would have been some kind of using or some kind of acting
hiding
out
or,
or
yeah,
right.
or
Yeah.
running or contacting someone that I don't want to have contact with, or, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then you call me and we're like laughing. It's just like you can't make this stuff
Even
up,
in the midst
just
of
like
it, I text you. I was like, "You're gonna laugh. This is good," and it wasn't like necessarily a funny. Maybe
none of it
people
is
wouldn't think it
funny.
was funny
Yeah,
at
none of
all.
it's
None of
funny.
it was.
But you pile it all up, it's like, holy crap,
That's
something's getting your attention.
hilarious. Yeah, life is a tool. Yeah,
Awesome. Okay. So is that it?
that's it for me.
Oh, so just to conclude that other the amusement conversation, I wanted to say that particularly since for a few weeks now, since I've been planning for this month and writing about
Mhm.
it and this and that, I've been singing this particular song, but it's a Girl Scout song that I've been singing since I'm little and since camp when I was a camp counselor for 5 summers. Um, and I sing it all the time anyway, but I'm just gonna sing it. It doesn't need to be in the thing, but I all the time. So and I've been changing it because you'll see. So I've been, it's like have fun. Our motto is, and I have this in the newsletter, have fun or you will miss a life of happiness while you're young. Remember, have fun. So I'm re singing this all the time. And right, it's injecting, it's like telling me to be, it's like praying. It's like, it's like, anyway, I do this. I take little clips and I just sing them over. I really like chanting and I chant. Um, anyway, I've been singing like while you're old. Remember
All the time. For right.
it's like, you know, 40 years ago I was singing it and I was young and now I'm singing it, I'm old and it's just as valid.
And still singing it. Like, yeah. still having
Yeah.
fun, still experiencing amusement. Yeah.
And I do want to say on the physical, I've chosen a partner that is very playful and likes to
Mhm.
laugh and likes to play and likes to dance and likes to. And what's funny is that he and I, we both have our issues, right? We both have our like where we get hooked, but they're
Mhm.
different places and that helps. And then we play in different ways.
Mhm.
And so we're both always injecting play into our lives from different places. So that really works. I just want to note, like, it's very helpful
Yeah. Mhm.
instead of somebody who's constantly joy squashing.
I was I didn't want to squash the joy by saying it, but like thinking of relationship examples that I've seen, I've had that modeled in front of me before of seeing that. And
Hmm.
like, that's not a lot of fun to be in.
Right. So, before we officially start the next thing, I mean, we can have that in or not, if it doesn't sound too bad. But there's a guy who's like looking at the pile of rocks next to me and looking at the truck on the other side of me as if, wait a minute, now he's going away. I was wondering if he wanted to, and he's looking back again. I'm gonna go see if he wants me to move.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Again with the hair. Oh my God, I love it here. He's like, he's just standing out there in the rain, looking at the
Moving
pile,
around,
looking at the truck. I go, am I in the way? What do you? It's like, no, I'm just seeing what to do about
scoping
these
it out.
things. I'm like, you're visioning what to do. Yeah, it's adorable. I'm like, well, tell me because I can move. It's like, you're really not in the way. Okay, good. I feel better. I don't like to be in the way.
I thought of something like a really what I think is powerful example of how I guess I'm gonna use the word powerful twice. Uh, do I want how powerful amusement and laughter can be. It's kind of an intense subject, but I just thinking about it just now, it feels like share worthy. Maybe I want to say this from the top again because I'm just wrapping my mind around it. I want to share something that I was reminded of while you were away that is a really good example of the power of laughter and amusement. Um, during colonial times and in slavery of African people here in America,
Uh-huh.
slaves were not allowed to laugh. They were not
No.
allowed to laugh, and they created what is called a laughing barrel. So if something funny happened, they would run over to the barrel and laugh into the barrel. So the part that I see that's so powerful is having that taken away. Like you wouldn't take that away from somebody that you were trying to enslave if it wasn't powerful, right? Like taking that away was seen as powerful and like a wielding of power, right? And that it couldn't be done either. Like there was still laughter, even if it had to be in a barrel. So
Wow. Wow.
I felt like that was a powerful example of like how much it's a part of who we are and how it can help move it.
So saddening and encouraging.
Right.
And these little indignities are it's so powerful to talk about them as part of the whole systemic oppression
Mm.
and how much there is to get over in um, for the children of slaves.
The class that I learned about this in, it came in the context of studying why Black people, when they're laughing in public, scatter. Like they tend to laugh and turn away from each other. And it related back to this of like, oh, it's funny, so we have to disperse. So the slave owner didn't see people laughing, and then there would be like punishment. So think it, but still now that I'm saying that because of the conditioning, right? Like it's still happening in present time just as a conditioning of like, oh, that's so funny, and we move away from each other, but it's conditioned from that. So at least that's what the research says.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it really does point to the power. It's just like being able to laugh helps take some of the power out of it, some of that oppression, some of that despair. It gives a little light into the subject.
Personal like ownership and autonomy too. Like I
Mhm.
have the choice to be in amusement. I have the choice to laugh, and like can't take that away from me. And you're trying because you want to take away my autonomy. And yeah,
Yeah, and we still have it on the inside no matter what. Like even if we're dealing with oppressive environment now, or we're in front of a
mm-hmm.
judge or we're at a funeral, right? We can still
Ours.
have amusement and I'll see the sparkle in our eyes. Like just the guy I just wanted to talk to. I'm just like, it was such a blessing. He's had this sparkly eyes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, look how much fun he's having standing here in the rain looking at rocks. Just the sparkling out of his eyes.
Just envisioning. Yeah,
Okay.
in there.
It's just basically, I love you too. Have fun, have fun. It's just like none of that said, of course, but it's just like so palpable sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about, the vibration and then the inner practice, which goes into the outer practice, which, is then easier to see. So anyway, let's consider moving on to the next,
Yes.
which is so funny. I have a
Topic.
lot more of it in here. So we'll see what happens. Um, so having this from my perspective as a reader, I see it as the same color. And that means to me that it's basically the same vibration, although it has a different, I can read it differently than amusement, but it has a different tone or texture or flavor. Um, they look different even though they're the same color. I guess we can relate to that on the physical. Um, so I think I talked in the first conversation that about how I see these flavors is that concentrated, like more freedom and permission shows up as havingness and amusement. Did I say that? And then kind of a lightened, made into cloud from water to vapor, um, of oneness experience, of the heart to chakra experience of oneness that is the reality comes down, affinity comes lighter as amusement and havingness. Like it's a spectrum of the same vibration, lighter or darker, basically, although still all opaque. And that sounds kind of technical and unnecessary, but I feel like it brings in some interesting ways to look at it. It's like if you water down love, oneness, which is one of the oneness is one of the most delicious parts of their experience of love for most people. it's that connected experience. It's so delicious. Um, we are all connected underneath it all, from my perspective. And that makes much more sense of havingness. We're all connected. Everything's connected. It's all one. We're all one. We're different manifestations of the same spirit. And everything's right here. So like we talk about running certain energies or opening to certain blessings because they're right here. Like no joke from my perspective. Like they're literally all the buffet is right here. It's right here. Um, so having this is just like, all right, I'm gonna all you can eat buffet. I now want some dessert. I go up and I get some dessert with ice cream on it and whipped cream and some nuts. I can do whatever I want, but like because it's right here, it's not taking away. There's always more. It's not taking away from
Mhm.
anyone. Or I can be just like, ah, I'm really full. I'm fine. I don't need any dessert. Like what? It doesn't matter. Like, but I can
Yeah.
it's right there. Am I willing to have it or not have it? It's great. Do I choose it, not choose it? I'd rather have more protein. Great. I'd rather, so I think coming to having this from there, because so many of us really, and I am still detoxing from this whole I have to give, not receive,
Mhm.
right? I have to help, not be helped. I have to heal, not be healed. Right? That's all bullshit. And it's very physical focused stuff. It's like on the physical, yeah, you eat a piece of pie and there's less pie for everyone. But in spirit, it's eternity. There's no end. There's no, you can have a million pies and there's still plenty for everybody else. Pie, you know, like, so, and no calories. So it's very convenient. But so, I feel like that's a cool place to start. What do you say?
Um, what did I write down? Well, things that came up for me were spoiled. Spoiled was something that was thrown around as a word in my family a lot.
Mm.
Like kids were called spoiled, and
Oh,
I've,
right,
as an
like you're
adult,
spoiled.
I've watched adults use it with kids too. Like I just spoil them, and I think about what the word spoil means, right? Like to go rotten or bad, and it's like, or they're getting what they deserve, and you're seeing them and giving them having this, right?
Yes.
And as you were talking, I was thinking like, why was that used as like a tool? Why, and scarcity mindset, like the idea that there's a limit somewhere. So we have to like push that on others that they can only have so much, and too much of a good thing is going to make you spoiled and bad and like that kind of thing, when there is really enough out here for everyone. So
Hmm.
that was those were the things that came up for me as I was listening, and blowing pictures about that spoiled thing, and like, that created what you were saying, like that having a I was only supposed to give, and asking meant that I was spoiled bad, not good, and like just continuing to give.
Hmm. Someone just today was in a meditation, sharing before a meditation, was talking about not punishing, not being abusive, punishment with her child, and how her child is like they're finding now talking too much in class and like
Mm-hmm.
not governed.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's kind of being like as if it was the impression
Disruptive.
I got was like as if it wasn't quite optimal to not discipline more
Mm-hmm.
in the overt ways of the culture. And the picture I got was about not too much love and freedom, but not some other things about when things are appropriate or what, like that kind of thing. Some as we get older, learning distinctions about so it's not like I mean, what happened with me, it's like let's just pound the self-expression right out. Like for me,
Hmm.
even still, I work on being seen and self-expressed and shining my light, right? It's still more, there's more available. And like that, we don't want to punch that out,
Yeah.
right? But to learn how to also listen, to also, right, like to do the other side too. Right. So I was just saying, like, I have to heal. I can't heal myself. I have to give. Right. It's just like everything has another side. Can we own the whole thing? Can I listen and and talk? Can I give and receive? Like, so owning all the dichotomies, that's what mature adults do. We just keep learning. It's not about, I really, really strongly feel like it's not about stopping our ability to speak or be playful and just say what's up for us. That's a really great skill. But then to be able to choose what to do with it. What are you noticing?
Uh, Receptivity, like I was thinking about, teaching children to self-express or like allowing them to self-express as well as to like absorb and observe too, like the importance of the two. And I would assume that there's a lot of modeling that goes on with that, like parental modeling, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and about, yeah, having this, like, can you have the information? I was seeing receptive as like listening, and how that is also a form of having this if you allow it to
Yes.
be.
Mhm. Yeah, because people are amazing and they just open like flowers with attention and listening. My dad, when I was older, I asked him about it. He wasn't like, I didn't see him as like the fount of wisdom, but he did say a couple things along the way, which he then didn't remember saying. But one of the most important things he said to me, because he, my mother and both him were talk to people. It was different how they talked to people, but they loved to talk to people, and I didn't. And so what he said to me once is that if you just go and talk to somebody and then you listen to them long enough, they tell you their truth. And boy, is that true, right?
Did
I mean, we
he
know
later
this.
not remember that one?
No, I wonder if it was like his consciousness
It's
telling.
interesting though. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The two like fascinating things he told me, he later
Hmm.
is like, um, I'm like, okay. But
Yeah.
right? It's just like, and that's part of showing up to a conversation. Like he would on days off, because he was a cross-country trucker, so he'd be gone for 5 days or whatever, a lot. And then he'd like rest for a long time. And then he'd like, he'd read the paper and lay around and do nothing. But then he'd eventually go out and like he'd just walk down the street and then he'd talk to like the hardware guy and then the gas guy and then the pharmacy guy. And it's hilarious. It's like very small town behavior.
Hmm.
Um, and like that's not something that I ever am interested in doing. I do it when I go to the pharmacy because I have to
But
get
not, I'm
something.
not going out
But
to
I'm
do
not
that.
just
Yeah.
going to play with the people, you know. So but I feel like that was so wise and so amazing and such a healing, beautiful thing for the listener and the giver and the talker. And we are in the wonderful position to do that all the time, to listen and they like amazing stuff happens. Go ahead.
I'm just thinking about how important it is for people to feel heard. I feel like a majority of my job, my work is to just listen and really hear. what people are
Hmm.
saying, you know. I'm sure that I think there's some kind of quote about like the difference between listening and hearing and all of that, but really listening and being
Hmm.
able to respond in a way that other people know that you did listen and feel seen, feel heard, and they can have that.
Yeah, you can have that. Throwing it back to the subject, thank you. Um, yeah, so we were dealing like with the idea of spoiled and
Mm-hmm.
uh okay, so let's just see what else I have to say here. Um, so now I'm getting into like right away, I'm getting into like the sideways place I want to bring this. So let me just see if there's anything I want to say before sideways. Um, I'll say, and I'm sure you've heard this story, but I think it's relevant here. The first, on my own, the first foundations class that I offered was to agnostics and atheists because apparently I have to make things hard. Because I am an agnostic, and I had some friends, and they were open. So anyway, that's what he did, and it wasn't a giant class or anything, but it had a handful of people, and um, they did great, and they got a lot out of it, and their lives were changing, in 6 weeks and 5 weeks. And so we get to the last class, and I start to talk about um, havingness and how it works. And I made the mistake of saying that basically, I should have said it differently, but I did say you have to believe you can have it to have it. Right. And I knew these people, and I knew like one of them had like great job, makes lots of money, really able to speak up, stand for himself, get what he wants, right? Like he's really good, he's high having this. But I unfortunately used the word belief, which is like apparently against the rules when talking to atheists and agnostics. So like the whole class exploded and the whole, and it's just like it was a good excuse for everybody to just blow it all off, basically. We came to the end of that first cycle,
All
that
of it.
6 week cycle. But it's like I would say it differently, but it's just very like, can I have it? Like he could have a big bank account, a big career, a big difference in the world, a big paycheck, a big house, a big boat, right? He could have this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which some of which I have trouble having, but he could have it, and therefore he could have it. You can't actually um, open the door to the new or the old, the box of stuff, and open it up and eat it and integrate it unless I can't do it unless I'm willing. I can't have a great relationship unless I can have it. Um, and if the only thing I know and believe is that men suck or women suck or whatever partner gender I might have sucks,
Mm-hmm.
then it's always going to suck. And so, and the distinction I got along the way, like right away when I learned about having this, like right away, we did a having this board thing, vision board thing right away.
Mm-hmm.
Just And right away, I was just like, what I need to do, what I saw very clearly is that it wasn't just what I wanted, but what I had to own what I have, to enjoy what I
Mm-hmm.
have, like to savor my partner while he's still here, while we're both still here, because one of us is going, or both soon,
Mm-hmm.
relatively, whatever,
Yeah.
right? Can I really savor it? Or am I just busy eschewing it? Like there was this one guy I dated, secondary partner. And I was like really clear. He's never going to be a partner. Never. Like we were crazy about each other, crazy. sex was like mind blowing, etc. And I liked him and he was cool, but like there was no way that we'd ever be partners. And he had just very different pictures than me. And there's no way I was going to be his partner because I would have to fit in the mold of a more traditional wife, having a more traditional life, and in very politically different, socially different. Never going to happen. So,
Don't
but
want to have it.
but like I enjoyed it a lot, that relationship. It was relatively quick, it was only a few months. And then it really went south. It's not important why. And but I told him, if you're not happy, you really need to break up with me because and he did. So then I'm crying, like I'm with my friend Tim, who's very intellectual, and I'm like, I get to the point where I'm like, we're walking the boardwalk, and I'm like losing it. I'm like on the ground now. I'm in the middle of the boardwalk. Like, fortunately, it's not the day, right? But I'm like, there are people walking by, but I'm like this lump on the boardwalk, and I'm crying, right? I'm just weeping. It's really sad. It's really sad. He's looking down at me. Standing there with his hands in his pockets, classically. And he's looking down at me. And he's like, I thought you weren't gonna let him in that far. Like I thought you knew this wouldn't work.
I did.
Right? I let him in pretty far. Not all the way far. And that's it. It's just like, how far do we let it in? How much can we taste the food?
Yeah.
How much can I let that love and connection and real affinity and real validation? How much can I let it in? I let it in a lot, but not all the way. I was trying to protect myself because I knew this day was coming. Um, and so that's I feel like that's such I hope it's a relatable example of like, just like, I know, but he's just like, he's just like, why just I'm crying? He didn't always get it, but, but he meant well. Uh, so it's, it's a deep soul thing. Can we really taste it? Can we really let the love in? Can we really, um, there's a lot of stuff that in our culture people believe, doctrines about religion or how the government should operate or what our political civics is or whatever. People believe it, but then it's just like, how deep does that go?
Mm.
Okay, what does freedom mean, and what does it mean? How deep does it go in my soul, and how much do we get to share it? These things are not just intellectual concepts. So that kind of points to some havingness. It's like, just, the buffet is there. I was just thinking of my commitment ceremony day, right? Like, it's just like I barely ate and I barely drank because there was so much going on. Even though I planned all this gorgeous food to eat. Um, I was thinking, I barely ate, and what I ate, I didn't taste,
Mm.
right? Like there was
That's a
just
different thing. Yeah.
there was so much stimulation and so many people to talk to and so many dances to have and so many, right?
Yes.
Right? It's a good example. It's just like, dude, you couldn't let it in. So, what are you noticing?
I can share a real quick example of this that it made me think of moving into this apartment. And like the day that I found it, I had been looking for a place for a week, 2 weeks, something like that.
Ooh.
And I was from a very like strong place of scarcity at the time, not having a place to stay and like trying to decide what to do. And I kept looking for what fit within my budget, or like I think about it like clicking the sort on like a list of things on the internet and you put like lowest to highest. And I was doing it that way, and just nothing was working out. And it was the day before I was either going to stay here or move back to Washington.
Yeah.
And I just went in and I put all the, like, if I could pick whatever I wanted. Okay, I want a washer and dryer inside. I want a parking spot. I want a pool. I want the rent to only be this high. Set it there. Boom. It was there. Better than I could have even imagined. There's a skylight and a garden window.
Yes.
And I'm currently looking at, like, well, where do I want to go next? And I can find myself going into, like, I don't want to go
Yeah.
anywhere. I don't like anything and it's all too expensive. Where I really want to be is too
Right.
expensive. And I continue to try and reprogram, looking for, like, I'm always looking at, like, what can I have rather than what do I want? Like,
Yeah.
what can I, within whatever false story there is, what can I afford rather than what do I want? What do I want to have? What am I going to allow myself to be in? So,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the receptive side. This is like the whole idea that, and I think before I go on, I just really want to disambiguate because I keep having to learn that when I say spirit, not a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about.
mm,
Um,
never hurts to reiterate, right?
it's like religion, spirituality, spiritual practices. Some people don't know what I'm talking about. Like there's the physical things you can see, and that's not it. And there's the stuff we can feel with our bodies and think about with our bodies. That's not it. I mean, this is also obvious to us, right? I mean, but um, there's not everybody has the same experience. So there's this internal experience. And one way to talk about it is like with love, because a lot of people have this idea or this experience of love that, I mean, our culture really pushes it as it like romantic love is the answer. People have this experience of, their newborn baby and all of a sudden their heart explodes, or a new
Mm,
relationship with a lover, their heart gets all open or whatever. So there's like that's relatable, and that's something like that's not, I mean, there's physical parts about it. There's body chemicals and there's thoughts and there's
yeah.
physical experiences and stuff. But there's also energetic, spiritual stuff going on with that. And so that's one way to start to talk about it. Um, so anyway, I'm trying to talk about the untalkable, but there is in our own soul, there's the capacity, and this is the foundation for everything we do. In our own soul, there's a capacity that's not physical in any way for us to be able to perceive senses that are from our soul, not from our body, and be able from that place in the soul to make choices from that place in the soul to change, shift in our soul in a way that is physical. And then that can manifest back out in the physical. But um, so people talk about having spiritual ears or spiritual eyes or just knowing for no reason. And that's not intellectual knowing. There's
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to this, there's what I call, not everyone does, what I call intuition, these intuitive leaps we make, like a lot of famous scientists have, Einstein, um, the guy with the light bulb, Edison, right? They'd try things, they'd learn things, they'd fill the well, and then they'd be just like, I have to sit here with this until magic happens. And it would, right?
Telepathically.
Would. And that could be spiritual revelation, but it's likely to be more likely to be pattern matching of the wonderful intellect that we have. And the there's the actual, I saw a book I haven't read yet, but about how the brain works to put all that together to make sense of all the nonsense and the too much information into some kind of pattern. Or Darwin's insight about evolution or whatever, right? So I put that over into intuition, which we use the same capacities for. So what we do works for both. But there's a
Mhm.
very body level of this, or like just knowing like this is what's going to happen in a relationship, or that, right? Like we just see the patterns. It's like, oh, I see that's going to hell in a handbasket,
Mhm.
right? Like the
Mhm.
eyes roll, one of them eyes that rolls the eyes, and the other one makes a face, and we're just like, oh shit. You know, like, I think it's John Medina. Is it John Medina? No, he does something else. But there's another Seattle, it's a couple actually, that do research about watching the microaggressions on people's faces and
Mm, mm,
predicting
mm.
what's going to happen with the relationship, right? That's all toward
Oh,
intuition,
gotcha.
which is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like out of the box, non-physical, irrational information. And blessings. The important part is the blessings, the fulfillment, the shifts of amazement, the consciousness that can happen over here, um, that aren't about putting two and two, making four eventually. So anyway, we can't talk about it because it's spirit and we can only do metaphor. But some people have had this experience a little or a lot, and some people want it, and some people don't. And if if people don't, that's great. But this is probably not the
Mhm. Probably
why
didn't make
you
it this
listen,
far.
why you're listening to this stupid stuff that we're saying. It's just really an important distinction that it's just that
Mhm.
so many people are like, okay, so when we talk about um havingness, I am not overtly talking about big stacks of money in the bank. It might end up with not lots of flow in our lives with resources. I'm not saying it won't,
Mhm.
but that's not what I'm talking about. So all these, it's so I'll just go Christian for a minute and say, there's all these biblical promises that people make physical
Mm.
that that like we'll get the goods. And I say that almost all of it is talking about spiritual. We'll have life abundantly overflowing in our soul, which in my experience is really great. And if I had to have one or the other, if I had to have in my soul or in my bank account, I'm going to go for the soul every time because it's beyond, it's so good. So it fill up inside and then go into the body, life, and world. I'm not saying it can't, but like
Mhm.
the spiritual blessings are spiritual in our soul. So I'll stop because I'm just saying the same thing, and those who get it can get it, and otherwise not. But I think it's really important to say this.
I agree. I agree. I just had like my, a new understanding of it. I mean, I've had distinctions, and I'll just talk for too long if I say more. But since we can't talk about it and we can only use metaphors, something that I see within this is learning belonging and like havingness. Can I feel like I belong? Can I have that? I spent a lot of time feeling like I couldn't belong anywhere. I didn't belong anywhere. And if I can allow myself to feel like I belong, can I have that? Can I feel like I belong? And just like that sounds kind of silly, but I don't know. Maybe the people who have always felt like they belong, but whoa, what a like leap having that in my soul. Nobody like gave me a thing for belonging. My apartment story didn't, like that's the physical thing. But like,
Right.
could I have that in my soul that I belong here? I have a divine right to be here and experience life.
Yes. Yes. I love that example, Amber, because it's the most foundational.
Mm.
And a lot of us, and I certainly did, I used to walk around forever being like, why do I have to be a square peg in a round hole? Why can't I belong anywhere? Why am I not fish or fowl? How come I never fit? And I had that complaint forever. And then I didn't because I started to have
Changes
belonging
so
from
much.
within. And now I don't
Changes
fucking
so
care.
much.
I don't care,
Changes. Yeah.
right? It's like, go ahead and think
wherever I am.
I'm bad and I'm wrong and I'm not the right kind of Christian and I'm not the right kind of queer and not the right
Hmm.
size and I'm not the right shape and I'm not the right bank account and too old and I'm too right. Like it's just like I don't care. Like part of me still cares and I'm working on it, but mostly I just don't care. And I don't fit with the fish and the fit with the fowl in their head. I fit. I walk in, I fit. Okay, here I'm with the fish. It's great. Yeah, okay, now I'm with the fowl. It's great. Now I'm with nobody. Happy as a clam. Right? Like, it's a whole different conversation. And all the change happened inside.
Yeah, there wasn't a thing. There's not a, yeah.
I'm not prettier, smarter, or younger with longer hair. I'm not.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. And when I do that, I'm more likely, and then I'm just a fish with fit, right? Like all that getting thrown out all the time. I still get thrown out, but sometimes, a lot of times it's just like I fit where I fit because I come, like we were talking about that guy. I go up to the guy. I could, didn't used to, right? I'd be like,
I'm gonna move my car. I'm out of here. I don't have to say anything.
don't see
Yeah.
me, don't talk to me. Oh my God, if I talk to you, you're gonna like kill me, make me miserable, hate me, make me, right? It's just like all that stuff is gone. And now I'm just like, I have to go talk to the guy. And then I talk to the guy, and it's
You
like
get
the
a
best,
smile. Go
it's just like,
figure.
you're
Hmm.
delicious. Hi. Okay, everything's fine.
Yeah,
Bye. And that, right? It's like a whole different world.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
so much easier.
yeah,
I guess. Yeah,
yeah.
so much
So a
more
lot of that
ease
is
with it.
soul transition, but some of it's just living in the vibration and letting the vibration do what it does of belonging, of oneness, of validation, of safety.
Mm,
And it's just those energies
true.
just melt,
Yeah.
start to actually transform the experience, and then it's all good.
I can do
Okay, so having said that, now I can get back to it. Okay, so most of the time, most of the people that I know, although now I talk to you, I talked to Liz last week, both of you are like, I forgot about this, right? It's just like, we learn so much. The buffet's so big of our learning that it's hard to remember to eat,
it.
it's like, but I
Little
like
bit.
this and that, so why would I bother to have more salad? I want, I can have salad at home. So anyway, um, having this is tends to be seen as receptive. Just, okay, thank you, waiter. I will take the soup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there is an ask and receive quality. And so, I just want to say hello to the other part, which is the ask and the act. These parts, the choose, ask, act. That's all the male valence. Some people get stuck on this female male. The feminine, if you want to just listen to it as receptive, the receptive part, and then the active part. Um, so I'm big on this lately. I mean, because I've been learning male energy full on, big time for a few years, several years. And it's changing my world. Um, so let me see what I have here. Yeah, so it's usually seen as receptive. Can I allow good things to come? Um, can I be unattached and unresistant? Right. So am I willing to open the door? Am I not running away from the good things? Am I willing to stop resisting them from coming? Right. Because maybe I learned when I was young to like not let the good things in. It was too hard. Then it's just like, oh God, the other shoe is going to drop. It's very hard to like be happy and then things go to shit again. It's just easier to live down here sometimes. Down here. Um, so anyway, that's all the receptive work of can I let the goodness in? And can I stop running from it? And I can stop building walls against it. Um, and can I just allow the flow of blessings? So fine. That's really important. And it's a lot for most people. It's a lot. but there's more. Wait, there's more. And that's the saying hello to the active element. Um, and it's like, can I own my birthright? And we both talked about that. It's just like, I'm here to do something. I'm here to be someone, a particular me, and do particular me, and make a particular impact, and be in the right place at the right time, where like no one else can do or say or act. Right? And all this takes something. Um, and can I let that in? Can I let in what I need to walk my walk and talk my talk and shine my shine and go for what's mine? Can I go for what's mine? Right? Like, oh my gosh, Simone Biles. Have you seen her? Oh
No.
my God. Right? And she's just like sh going for in
Mm-hmm.
ways that blow my mind and being seen and being unstoppable and allowing the success so obviously and enjoying it. So talk about just being neutral and amused.
Mm-hmm.
So can I let it come? And then can I go toward it? So anyway, I'll stop there if you want to say anything.
I think about Simone Biles and how she took time off for her mental health and got a lot of shit for it. And like, look how that turned out. Like, she's choosing
Worked,
her, she's going
worked
after her
good.
and listening to what she needs and what the results are. And I think that that's important. The point,
Yeah.
yeah,
And making such a difference for so many because I'm
so
inspired.
many.
So many are
Yeah.
inspired. It's like, look, she had bad things happen
Mm-hmm.
and then she had to deal with it in public and she had to stand for herself. And she also then had to deal with so much seeming failure and self-caring and doing her work. She had to go through so much and it's so inspiring. It's like, damn, it worked.
And there's like another like paradigm where she could have tried to hide and avoid all of the shame and continued to perform the way that people expected her to. And who knows what would have happened, burnt out, hurt herself, all of those things, that
Yes.
the success I would assume, guess, wouldn't be what it is today had she not made those choices then. So,
No, I mean, she's just shining like the sun in my world,
love
like the sun, while she's twisting and turning and going like,
it. Yes, yes.
it's like
I'm
part of
so
their act. They have
I
to
don't
just
know
be
what it
like,
is
how
about
cool am
gymnastics,
I?
but I watch it and I'm like, why do I have goosebumps everywhere? Like I can sense this, and I'm sure they can too. Yeah. Okay,
So,
that's it for
okay,
that.
this is what we're pointing to here is what underlies a lot of our work, right? It's just like it's one thing to have a moment of experience, a delicious whatever, and it's another thing to learn to live in it. And that takes the receptivity and the activity to to allow all this to realize in our soul, body, life, world, relationships, work, play. Um, so, so yeah, I already said there's vibrations and practices, and we receive and we integrate. Like it's what we're constantly doing. We're constantly doing in this practice. Um, And I think I talked about this in last week's conversation with Liz about how this havingness that we keep talking about, and we said it already in here, but it underlies everything we do. It underlies, can I have this date? Can I have this on the outside?
Mm-hmm.
But also on the inside, can I really let the goodness of the divine in and go deep and transform me? And can I let it undermines, like what I'm constantly talking about is seniority. I thought, the authority of what I say goes in my space. That is our birthright. I'm constantly talking about that, and that leads to, that soul captain, that leads to soul leadership, that leads to our fulfillment as a soul, a full blooming teleos. I'm constantly talking about this, but really under all that is havingness. And I don't want to, I know I'm saying it again, but we're allowed and we're invited. It's like what we're here for, as far as I'm concerned, to actually play this game. And if we're not, there's so much juice that's not in life. And I've said this before in other places, but it's just like there's all this. I mean, Shakespeare, right? He's just like we strut and fret our time upon the stage, and then we're gone, right? It's just like there's so much of that. Well, I think in our culture we say, life sucks, then you die, right? It's our version of Shakespeare, right? And
Mhm.
um, yeah, and I used to like say that. I used to like believe
Mm,
it. I used to experience it. And now I'm just like, oh my gosh, the juice is
mm,
so ridiculous of playing the game from the inside out. So that is what, and having this help, without having this, we can't do it. We don't matter. None of it matters.
can't see it.
Can't see it, can't have it, can't
Taste
let it
it.
in.
Can't
Like
have it.
this whole we matter, what we do matters.
Mm, yeah.
It's not even on the
Agreed.
table. So anyway, go ahead. I interrupted.
No, I would. Uh, I'm not sure why, so I'm just gonna run with what's coming up for me. Is I take a walk each morning. That's like my deal. How I set my tone for the day, and all of the time I'm walking, there's just so much cool things in nature around, and like I went for almost a year without doing this, and I watched what happened to my life versus like even my first walk back or my second, just getting in the appreciation of the flow for being outside in the sun, connecting with God or universe or whatever you want to say in that moment, the divine. And then I just get to see so much. Like
Yeah.
there's so many things, there's so much wonder, and it really sets the tone for what I can allow myself to have in other aspects of the day. Like there's so many more possibilities when I allow myself to see what is out there beyond just like societal constructs or what culture says that I'm supposed to be looking at in one thing. Like, well, I want a snail shell, and like look at how it's. I don't. There's just so many things that we don't think about daily.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I see it because you sent me just a few pictures from your walk the other day, and I'm just like, look at her seeing the light in the squirrel tail. The light through the squirrel tail, the light in there's a lot of them that the light was shining. It was
Wow.
very interesting.
No,
And that
you're.
little snail, I guess, on the wall. Um, yeah, it's
I was
just like
musing about
really
how it
seeing
got
the
there.
beauty.
Yeah, like a little
Yeah.
tiny snail all the way up 2 floors. But yes, seeing the beauty in the sun, and like for a long time, or most of the time I've been in Houston, I've just been like, it's too hot to go outside. And now I'm out enjoying the sun and the heat and like seeing it and turning that around.
Mm, gorgeous. Yeah. Awesome. So let's see. So this having this that we're talking about, it provides a possibility for us. And this is, I think, I'm just trying to decide what to do about this because it's been 2 hours. Um, I'm thinking that I'll go through this fast, but this is related to what I want to be doing going forward in bringing some of the stuff that we healed about the other day with me into the
Okay.
world. So I think I want to go through this fast because it brings a whole nother conversation to having this. But how does that sound? What do you think? Because
Sounds
having a
good.
2 hour
Sounds
thing is
like a
like a lot.
summarized transition to the next thing we do. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
So, okay.
yeah.
So what I think I'll say is that um, when I look at having this around what's going on in our society right now, I think the most important thing to say about it is that can I have the permission in myself? Can I have the invitation in myself to make my difference and not just be rolled along with what's happening? And instead of reacting, fighting, resisting, I'm a big not fan of resistance. I know it's so popular in the last however long. It's such a popular word to use, resist. And I get the pictures. I really do. I really get and validate the pictures. And I really don't think it's the right direction. It's about can I have standing for, not
Mhm.
against it. It's opening because as far as spiritual and soul work, it's just, resistance is blocking. Whatever I resist, I give power to, which is not what I want. So anyway, can I stand for um, and continue to go in a direction? So again, it's the male element that I'm drawing out here. Can I take a stand and say, having done all stand?
Mhm.
And that really was obvious in the Nancy Pelosi interview that I shared with you. And like people from all the political and non-political spectrums, they understand the standing thing. But
Mhm.
she just was really obvious. It's just like we have to stand for this.
Mhm.
This is so important. Feeding the young people who need it is like this is going to
Mhm.
happen. Or this other person being elected. This is so we have to stand for this to go a different way. We must go a different way. Um, so I think I'm going to stop here because, as I said, people don't like long videos. And it's starting to go into where I want to go with this, and I can utilize all this and let it build. Does that
Yeah,
seem good?
I think it's a good transition. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
awesome. So do you have any final words?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Well, no one said they have to listen to this, and a lot of people won't. But I'm very grateful, Amber. I feel like we really drew out with some stories and some examples and some, hopefully some passion that people could see about like why bother.
Distinguish Distinction. I guess that's the word that you say a lot. I feel like